For more on Iran, we're joined by Anthony Cordesman of the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington, D.C. Thank you for coming back.
Pleasure.
We haven't heard a lot lately about the possibility that Israel might attack Iranian nuclear sites. So where do you think the Israelis are in thinking about that?
It's certainly a constant preoccupation. It's debated at the political level, it's debated in Israeli think tanks, and certainly it's a subject of planning by the Israeli Defense Forces. And while it may not have been visible, Israel sent submarines through the Suez Canal as a gesture. It had Egyptian permission to do it. And the reason that's important is there are some indications that Israel is arming its submarines with nuclear-armed missiles.
Though the Obama administration denied it represented a policy change, Vice President Biden said recently the U.S. would not stand in the way of an Israeli attack on Iran. How significant was that?
Well, it seems to have been a serious misstatement because the chairman of the Joint Chiefs had said just the opposite. The Secretary of Defense had said the opposite. The Secretary of State had said the opposite. And I think the problem is that what the Vice President may have been saying is that the United States can't block an Israeli attack on Iran. It can only discourage it. But we've sent mixed signals, and given the sort of impetus Israel has to attack, that could be very dangerous.
And there was a report recently in the London Times that the director of the Mossad had met with Saudi officials and that the Saudis had granted permission to use their airspace for any attack on Iran. Do you think that's really likely?
To put it bluntly, I wouldn't regard anything in the London Times as being anything other than an irresponsible tabloid journal. This is not the newspaper of 20 years ago. It's made up one defense story after another. The Saudis have denied this. The flight patterns almost certainly would move in a somewhat different direction. And Saudi Arabia, in any case, is not going to confront a full-scale Israeli attack. Is this credible? No.
Iran presumably would respond to any attack. So what kind of responses would you expect to see?
It has a very limited, relatively ineffective Air Force. Its radar systems, its air defense systems are in general very old, virtually obsolete. It has some modern Russian missiles which are clustered around its most important points, but they're very short range. It might be able to get some kind of attrition of an oncoming Israeli attack, but the fact is it would probably do more to disperse what it has than to try to successfully defend.
Anthony Cordesman, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.